All right, so we're gonna go to the shoulders, perfect. Yep, you can roll the shoulders back for 8, and then we're gonna roll them forward for 8. Nice. Ooh, someone has a fancy doorbell.
Oh, it's the clock.
Oh, cool. I always wished I had a fancy doorbell. My grandmother had one that I loved. Nice. And then when you're done with that, I want you to spread your feet apart so you have a wide base of support, and you're going to think about your chest. You're rotating your chest from one side to the other, and you're letting your arms hang heavy, kind of like they're dead. There's no muscle holding them up. Nice. Good. Nice. And so this should feel good. If it doesn't feel good for some reason, just let me know and we can modify it. Same thing with all these functional movement patterns. Sometimes they don't feel good for us. They cause pain, they cause discomfort. If that happens, we can always modify them. There's more than one way to build that strength, and we want to do it in a light that feels good. Now we're going to go to these hips. So I want you to think about making big circles with the hips. This is a good one to bring awareness to the hips. So as long as this feels good, try to think about bringing your hips out to the left. Then you can bring them forward, bring them out to the right, and push your butt back. And see if you can even that out into a nice circle for 8 in one direction and then 8 in the other. This one is really good for releasing tension on the lower back if it feels good for you. Again, if it doesn't, you can always make the circle smaller. So you can make tinier circles if something doesn't feel good. But as long as everything feels good, I want you to try to make big circles. Nice. And then we're gonna switch to go the other way at 8, same thing. You poke your hip out to the right, front, left, and back, and then try to turn that into a nice circle for 8. As you do this, I want you to think about your feet. So whether you're making a teeny circle or a big circle, underneath your feet, your body weight is shifting. So where your weight is in your feet is moving. And I want you to see if you can feel that and be mindful of that as we do this. There's nothing to change about it, just to be aware of it. It's supposed to happen, but it leads into some of the movements we do where we want to be very aware of how we move and where our body weight is. Perfect. Once you've done 8 of those hips, I want you to bring the feet together, knees together, and you're going to make circles with these knees. So again, make only the biggest circle you can make without any pain. So for some folks, that's a small circle, and that's okay. For other people, they can tolerate a much bigger circle. Whatever you can do is perfectly okay. Nice. Good. And then you're going to switch to the other side. Nice. And you're going for 8 and 8. When you're done with those, you can feel free to use a wall if you want. You don't have to, but we're going to go to the ankles. So I like to use a wall so I don't have to think about my balance. I'm going to pick one foot up, and I'm just going to think about drawing a circle with this big toe on the ground for 5, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side for 5. If you both find that you are not able to rewatch these videos at least one more time a week, I want you to think about why that is. It's not something that anyone's going to judge, but I want to understand why. Is it that you don't have the time? Is it that you're not motivated to do it? Is it that it doesn't sound like fun? because I want to try to help you find a way to increase the way that you move during the week, and it might not be the videos. So depending on your answer to that, we have some other creative solutions that might work. All right, so once you're done with those ankles, if you have a ball, do you both have a ball?
Oh, I'll have to get my ball.
Okay, if you can grab your ball, I would love you to grab your ball. So I have a ball that looks like this.
Yeah, I have.
You can have a tennis ball, you can have a lacrosse ball.
Yeah.
Edie, if you can grab your ball, I know at one point you lost your ball. So if you can find your ball or you have any kind of a ball, that would be excellent.
Okay, got it.
Perfect. All right, so with this ball, you can do this sitting in a chair, or you can do this leaning against a wall, or you can just do this standing up. So whatever is easiest for you. Sitting in a chair or leaning against a wall, I found is easier. I'm gonna do it from a wall, but you can do it from a chair. You're just gonna take this ball and you're gonna put it under one foot. You should be able to vary the pressure. So by leaning against the wall, it's easy for me to weight just one leg. And I just want to roll this ball under my feet sort of everywhere. This is called sensory afferent. So what it does is it sends signals to our brain because our feet have all these proprioceptors on the bottom of them. It sends signals to our brain that we're going to start doing movement. We want to activate ourselves for movement. And that these little feelers on the bottom of our feet should start turning on and getting excited to move. So feel free to use it anywhere under your foot. You can even play with the sides of the feet. Wherever it feels good, there's nothing at all that's off limits. And you can go ahead and switch to the other side. As long as you can keep this ball in a place that you're not going to trip on it. This is something that I really like to have people do in the morning. It's a really good way to start your day because, like I said, it wakes up your brain-body connection from your first point of contact on the floor, which is your feet. Nice. Good. And you can go ahead and put that ball away for now. All right, so we're gonna go first to our squat pattern. So that's when we sit down and stand back up. But today we're gonna advance it a little bit. We're not gonna have a chair behind us. We're gonna imagine we have a chair behind us. And what I want you to think about, again, is that you're sitting in this imaginary chair. And when you get to a point that feels comfortable, then you stand back up. And I want you both to do 8 of those. If they really don't feel good for some reason, you can find a door frame. You can hold on to both handles of the door and you can use that to help you sit down and stand up. If you are worried you're going to tip backwards, you can always do this near a wall. So if I sit down and stand up like I'm sitting in a chair, if I were to tip backwards, the wall's going to save me. Nice. And we're going for 8. Nice. So really think about sitting in that chair. I even want you to think about this challenge. You're not doing this today, but when you do this movement, think about this. If I put you against a wall with a broom handle and you had to sit back, could you do it? That's what the squat should feel like. All right. Once you're done with those, we're going to go to the step over. Oopsie, sorry. We're going to go to the step over. So the step over is when we imagine that we're stepping over something. Today, we're going to imagine that we're stepping over a yoga block. I'm going to put one here so you can see it, but we technically aren't going to have anything there at all. We're going to imagine it. So I want to show you something about this movement really quickly. So if I were to try to step over these 2 yoga blocks, okay, they're pretty wide. What I would want to do is get up nice and close to them with both of my feet together. I know a lot we have this wide base, but in this movement, we want to be as close to the object we're stepping over as we can, because then it decreases the distance that we have to step over it. For example, if I started here and had me feet apart, I have to step really far over, and then this foot's even further away. So when we're doing this, even with our imagination, I want you to imagine you're right up next to the object that we're stepping over. So we're going to start with thinking about stepping over a yoga block. So you got right up next to it, and you step over, and then go on the other side. Remember, even though we're using our imagination, both feet need to step over the same object. A lot of people take a big step with one foot, and then they drag the other foot over. If there was really an object here, you could not do that. So now we did the yoga block. We're going to step over a boulder. We're in the woods, and we need to step over a boulder. So that's going to be a bit higher and a bit wider. So same thing, imagine you came up next to it, really get over that big boulder with both feet. And we're gonna do 3 of these on each side. Nice. Cool. Once you've done 3 of those, now I want you to imagine you're in the garden. You have those big bags of soil and you're trying to step over one of those. So get up next to that bag of soil. It's pretty low to the ground and you want to step over and over. As you do this, I really want you to think about what's the most efficient way for me to do this? It's for me to be next to my bag and then I gracefully want to step over and shift my weight very slowly and then step over. If I'm really wobbly, I want to slow things down and see, can I weight this leg before I unweight this other one so that I'm not quite as wobbly. Nice. And for the last one, we're gonna step over a pile of snow. We're outside, it's winter, and there's a pretty big snowbank. It's at least the height of our knee, if not higher, and you need to step over that guy. Nice. And we're just gonna go for 2, so 1 on each side. Perfect. How's that feeling?
Good.
Perfect.
I've been wearing really bad sandals outside, and I think that's not good.
Does something hurt?
Well, I just don't feel secure in them. But they're
So
easy.
In an ideal world, I would like to find a place with you that you feel so strong that it doesn't matter what's on your feet. You're like, they're easy to put on and I feel good in these things. So right now, do you feel unbalanced or do you feel like they get caught on stuff or are they
Well,
too big?
they get caught on stuff, but they're also, I guess I feel like the base, I don't have a good base.
Are you comfortable wearing bare feet?
Yep.
I would advocate for bare feet, even like if you both can do bare feet for 30 minutes to an hour each day. Our feet are really designed to be used and we don't use them anymore. And over a shoe, it's going to be your best thing. You can feel everything around you. If I step on something hot, I can feel it. If I step on something round and hot, sharp, I can feel it. And so it's less likely that I'm going to step on something and trip as long as I'm very mindful when I start, because you do want to use your foot like you use your hands. Am I feeling the ground? Is this a safe step to take? I'm feeling the ground. Is this a safe step to take? And there's a lot of science behind the connection to your brain, especially if you walk in the grass with bare feet. It's called grounding, but it's a very like mindful principle for your body. So if you're up for it, I would try maybe barefoot, even 30 minutes, and then go back to the sandals. But I do agree footwear is very important. So if you feel like it's getting stuck on stuff, it might not be the right footwear. If you feel like it doesn't encapsulate your foot enough to keep you balanced, then we can start to improve some strength. But until that strength and that higher capacity is there, I think choosing a strong footwear is important because your feet are the first point of contact on the ground. You want to make sure you feel good in them. All right, we're gonna go to that hinge pattern. So I'm gonna use a wall today to show you how to do that. You all look good and you've done this before, but we're gonna bring it back to the basics a little bit so that next week we can step it up. So I'm about 1.5 foot lengths from a wall. You don't have to have a wall. You don't have to use a wall if you don't have one. This might be too far. Let me start with 1 foot length away from the wall. And I'm gonna push my hips back. I'm gonna imagine, again, someone's taking this and they're putting it into my belt buckle and they're driving my hips back until they touch the wall. Now this is pretty easy for me. So I'm gonna take a little step forward and try again. This is definitely my maximum range of motion. So I can barely get to the wall. So I'm gonna take a little step back, and there is where I can easily drive my butt to the wall, and as soon as it touches, drive it forward. So I want you to think about you're picking up a lot of weight. So you really have to drive your butt until it touches the wall, and then you need to pull these hips forward to stand back up. It's super easy in this movement to bend at the hips or do something else. So think about it. You have something super heavy in your hands and you need to use your hips to drive it back, and then you need to use your hips to drive it forward. Nice. We're gonna go for about 8 to 10 of these, depending how you feel. Does anyone have any questions? I know that this movement can feel weird, but do you have any particular questions about it?
But you know what it reminds me of is those like kind of ducks or something. That
Yeah, I
you
know,
put
they
over a
duck in the
glass and they
water.
go, yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So make sure the hips are going back. The chest is not meant to come down towards the ground. Your hips need to be the driving force. My chest will naturally come down if my hips go back. But I never want my shoulders to be in line with my hips. So if I'm here, I'm doing the movement wrong because my hips can only go back so far and then they're gonna stop me. And if that range is small, it's okay. It's something we can improve. It's not a movement that we do as often as we could. Perfect. When you're done with like 8 to 10 of those, let me know.
Oh, yes, I do have a question. So you have to really pay attention and keep your shoulders from going down, right?
Yeah, so you're gonna feel it when we add weight to it. So here, this is a heavy-ish weight. It's 35 pounds, right? So this weight is like, I can still lift it pretty easily, but it's not that easy. So if I were to deadlift this kind of a weight, I need to use my hips to pick it up. And I need to use my hips to put it back down. And I don't want to just use my back like this. It's actually a little heavy to do that. I feel like I'm going to lose it right here versus if I drive my hips back, my hips are strong. They can easily pull this weight up for me. Sorry. So I really want you to think about that. And as we start to add load to this, it's going to make more sense for you. But I want to get your pattern down and your body used to the movement before we add too much load. And like the other day, I deadlifted like 150 pounds very easily. You guys can all probably deadlift 90 pounds once you get the pattern, 100 pounds pretty easily. And when you get up to a heavier weight, which we don't have to get to, but we do want to get some load, you can't lift the weight unless you're using your hips. It's like literally not possible. So your hips are strong. So the goal of this movement in life is like when you're moving stuff around that's a little heavier, it's going to be way more efficient to use your hips to do it than anywhere else on your body. Does that make sense? All right, I have to run, but it was lovely to see you both.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
You're
I'm
welcome.
feeling much better about the hinges.
Yay, you look
Okay.
good. Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Edie.
Bye, Jen.
I love your